I used to think my sister was my best friend. We were Irish twins, 11 months apart. Grew up sharing everything from birthday cakes to heartbreaks. She had a bigger personality, the kind that walked into a room and sucked all the air out. People loved her. Guys loved her. My parents adored her. I didn't mind it for a long time. I liked being the quieter one, the steady one. Until I realized she was quietly taking everything from me. It started small, my favorite hoodie mysteriously ending up in her closet, job leads I told her about that she magically discovered before me, and somehow landed interviews for. She always laughed it off, said I was being paranoid. But last year, it got serious. Dangerous. It was during the worst period of my life. My engagement had just ended, fiancé cheated on me with a coworker. I lost my job 2 weeks later. My lease was up. I was circling the drain. And she swooped in. She said, "Come stay with me. Reset. I've got your back." That's what family does. I wish I could say I saw it coming. I moved into her guest room. She poured wine every night. Cooked dinners like we were back in college. She kept saying, "You've carried everyone for so long. Let someone carry you for once." I let her. I let my guard down. Started opening up again. Told her everything, how lost I felt, how worthless. How I wasn't sure who I even was anymore. I started leaning on her emotionally in a way I never had. She told me I could. Then she met Mia. Or rather, re-met her. Mia was my ex's best friend. She and I had stayed in touch casually over the years. Nothing romantic had ever happened between us while I was with my ex, but there'd always been this low-burning connection. When everything fell apart, she was the one who texted first. We'd started grabbing coffee, talking late at night. Nothing serious, just something that made me feel like maybe life wasn't over yet. And then one night, my sister asked if it was okay to invite Mia over for drinks. Said she'd bumped into her at a gallery thing. I hesitated. Told her we'd been talking. That maybe something was kind of starting. She smiled. Said, "Perfect. I'll play wingman. You need this." She poured the wine. Lit candles. Even played the same playlist I used to put on when I was trying to set a mood back in the day. Mia came. We laughed, we drank, we stayed up until almost 2 a.m. And somewhere in the haze of it all, I got up to grab more ice. I was gone 10 minutes, max. When I came back, the two of them were sitting close. Too close. I watched her touch Mia's knee like it was the most natural thing in the world. She didn't even look at me. Just kept talking, laughing, leaning in. Something cold bloomed in my chest. After Mia left, I asked her, point blank, what that was. She looked at me like I was the crazy one. Said, "What are you talking about? You've been so down lately, I was just trying to help you have a good night." But her smile was off. That smile she wore when she knew she'd gotten away with something. The next few weeks, Mia got distant. Barely texted. Always busy. One night I asked her outright if something had changed. She paused and said, "I just don't want to get in the middle of something between you and your sister." My stomach dropped. I asked, "What does that mean?" She said, "Forget it. I shouldn't have said anything." I pushed. She folded. Turned out, my sister had been texting her. A lot. Said I wasn't in a good place. That I was still messed up over my ex. That she, my own sister, was worried I might spiral if something with Mia didn't go well. She'd even hinted that I'd tried to kiss her once. Drunk. That she'd had to push me off. It was a lie. A full fabrication. Mia showed me the messages. Her hands were shaking. I didn't say anything. I just stood up, walked out of that cafe, and drove straight back to the house. I remember standing in that kitchen, staring at the same wine glasses from that night, the playlist still saved on the Bluetooth speaker. She came downstairs in leggings and a robe, sipping tea like nothing had happened. I said, "Why'd you lie to her?" She blinked, then smiled. "Because you don't know how to finish things. You never have. Mia wasn't yours to begin with. She was looking for a reason to walk away. I just gave her one that hurt less." I couldn't speak, couldn't even move. She walked past me, calm as ever, and said over her shoulder, "Next time, don't leave the room." I left that night. Didn't even grab my stuff. Just my keys, my wallet, and a hoodie that didn't smell like her perfume. I drove to a cheap motel off I-80 and stared at the ceiling until the sun came up. Sleep didn't happen. All I could hear was her voice, "Next time, don't leave the room." She wasn't just cruel. She was strategic. She planned that. I spent the next few days couch surfing with an old college buddy who owed me a favor. I didn't tell him everything. Just said my sister and I had a falling out. He nodded like he understood. Everyone thinks their family is screwed up until they hear yours. What got me wasn't just that she sabotaged something that meant something to me. It was that she enjoyed it. She didn't just lie to Mia. She painted me as unstable, dangerous. And when I confronted her, she didn't deny it. She bragged. I tried to go no contact after that. Blocked her number, avoided family calls. But she knew how to reel me back in. It started with a voicemail from my mom. Her voice was tight, controlled. Said she heard I'd left suddenly, and that my sister was worried sick. I didn't answer. I couldn't. Then I got an email. From my sister. Subject line, "You're still my brother." Inside was a photo. Me and her. Sitting on the porch with popsicles, laughing. The message was short. "Whatever this is, I'm not your enemy. Please don't forget that." That was her move. She always wrapped knives in silk. I didn't respond. But I couldn't stop thinking about it either. I'd been spiraling for weeks. No job. No place of my own. No one to talk to who didn't know her. She still had my laptop. My journals. Boxes of personal stuff I didn't want lost to whatever mental chess game she was playing. So I did something stupid. I went back. She opened the door like she'd been expecting me. No shock. No anger. Just that quiet, victorious smirk. Said, "Thought you might come home eventually." I told her I just wanted my things. I was calm, focused. But inside, my hands were shaking. She stepped aside and said, "Of course. Whatever you need." But as I walked through the house, something felt off. My guest room door was open. My bed stripped. The walls were bare. And in the middle of the floor, a small pile of boxes. Like a checkout lane at the end of a hotel stay. She followed behind me and said, "I figured you'd want everything together. I even backed up your laptop files on a flash drive. Thought that might help." I didn't answer. Just kept scanning the room. And that's when I saw it. On the dresser, my leather-bound journal. Except it wasn't closed the way I left it. It was open. Bent spine. A pen sticking out sideways like a bookmark. I picked it up slowly. And inside, she'd annotated it. Tiny pencil scribbles in the margins. Brackets. Question marks. Underlines. She'd read every page. And judged it. I turned to her, holding it up. Her face didn't change. Just a soft shrug. "You were in a dark place. I was trying to understand you better. Don't be dramatic." I almost laughed. Almost. Instead I said, "You weaponized my lowest moments to kill something good. And now you're pretending it was love." She tilted her head, and for a second, just a second, there was something behind her eyes. Not guilt. Not even anger. Ownership. She said, "Everything in this house came from me. You were drowning when I pulled you out. Don't act like I owe you silence, too." I walked past her and took the boxes. She didn't stop me. But as I reached the door, she said one last thing that hit harder than anything she'd done before. "Mia never saw you, you know." Not really. She just liked the idea of healing someone. I stopped cold. She whispered, "But she liked me." I left without another word. Got in the car and drove until my eyes blurred. That night, I stayed in a parking lot outside a 24-hour gym, just breathing through it. The sick part. Somewhere, deep in the mess of my brain, a voice whispered, "She's not done. She never is." And I was right. After I left her house that day, I told myself I was done. Done being manipulated. Done giving her space in my head. Done making excuses for why I kept letting her back in. But cutting her out wasn't like flipping a switch. She'd rooted herself deep. My phone, my social life, my damn memories, she was threaded through all of it. And just when I started to get some distance, when things were finally quiet, she showed up at my new apartment. Not a call. Not a text. Just a knock at the door one night around 10. I knew it was her before I even looked. Call it instinct. Or trauma. I opened it half an inch, saw her standing there with a bottle of whiskey and 2 glasses, like we were celebrating something. She said, "I heard you got the new job. Thought we should toast." I said nothing. She held the bottle higher. "Peace offering." I looked at her face, lip gloss, perfect eyeliner, not a hair out of place. Like nothing had happened. Like she hadn't torched every bridge between us and pissed on the ashes. I said, "How'd you get my address?" She blinked. "Does it matter?" I didn't answer. Just closed the door. Slow, firm. Didn't slam it. Didn't give her the satisfaction. But I didn't sleep that night. Because if she had my address, what else did she have? I checked my accounts, my email, even my work laptop. Changed passwords. Two-factor everything. I started replaying everything she'd ever said around tech, how she used to help me set things up. How she insisted on linking her Netflix to my devices. How she once joked about being able to unlock my phone with her face because we looked enough alike. I didn't laugh then. And I wasn't laughing now. But here's the thing that cracked it wide open. 3 weeks later, I got a call from someone I hadn't heard from in years. A woman named Sarah. We'd dated briefly back in college. Nothing serious, just a few months of bad timing and late-night conversations. Ended on good terms. She said, "Hey, this might be weird, but I need to ask you something about your sister." My stomach dropped. I asked, "What about her?" Sarah hesitated. Then said, "She showed up at my job. I didn't even recognize her at first. She used your last name, not hers. Said she was working on a project about emotional recovery after breakups and wanted to ask a few questions about our relationship." I was silent. She kept going. It was like a professional interview. Clipboard, notes, calm tone. But it got weird, fast. She asked things like, "Did you feel like he depended on you too much? Or, would you say he tried to make you feel responsible for his emotions?" I closed my eyes. My chest was buzzing. Nausea rising. Sarah said, "I told her to leave. Told her she was crossing a line. She just smiled and said, 'Sometimes truth needs a little pressure to surface.' Then walked out." I said, "Jesus Christ." She added, "I thought about calling you sooner, but honestly, it rattled me. Felt like she was building some kind of story. About you." She was. She was rewriting me. Planting her version of me in the mouths of people from my past. People who wouldn't think to compare notes. People who'd trust her because she had my last name and a good smile. I hung up and just sat there, staring at the wall for what felt like an hour. I was done reacting. I needed to understand what I was up against. So I started digging. Not into her phone or laptop. I wasn't going to stoop to that. But I did start talking. Quietly. Carefully. I reached out to people she used to be close with. Old friends. Ex-roommates. Even an old boss I remembered from a holiday party years ago. And what I learned chilled me. One friend, Jenna, told me they'd stopped talking after my sister borrowed money for therapy, and then ghosted her. Another said she'd moved in with her for a few months during a rough breakup, and that by the end, she'd been so gaslit she didn't know if she was the crazy one or if my sister just enjoyed pushing her buttons. But the worst came from an old roommate, Becca. She said, "She didn't just lie, man. She studied you. She'd learn your insecurities and then use them to make you question yourself. She told me I was unlovable. That I was lucky she even let me stay with her. And I believed her. For a while. That pattern, lift you up, pull you in, then twist the knife when you least expect it. I'd thought it was just me. But it wasn't. It was all she knew how to do. The difference was, this time she wasn't just playing games with friends or flings, she was targeting me. Her brother. The one person who'd covered for her for years. Who defended her when people called her manipulative. Who blamed himself when things went sideways. I started piecing together a pattern of stories, texts, accounts that didn't add up. Screenshots. Voicemails. I wasn't sure what I was building, a case, a timeline, maybe just clarity, but it felt necessary. And then, one night, I got a DM from Mia. Just 2 words. "She's lying." I stared at the message for a full minute. My hands were shaking. I replied, "About what?" She wrote back, "Everything. Can we talk?" What she told me next made my skin crawl. When Mia asked to talk, I called her that same night. I didn't even wait 10 minutes. She picked up on the second ring. No hello, just breathed into the line for a second like she was holding something back. Then she said, "I'm sorry I didn't believe you." Those words hit like a gut punch. I asked, "What changed?" She paused. Then said, "She came to my place last week. Unannounced. Said she wanted to clear the air. But she wasn't there to apologize. She was fishing. Testing things." I sat down on the floor, heart hammering. Mia kept talking, voice flat but tight, like she was forcing herself to stay calm. She said you'd been spiraling. That you'd been making up stories about her. That you were emotionally unstable. She told me you were on medication but stopped taking it after your breakup. Said you'd been losing touch with reality. I didn't even know what to say. I felt like I was outside my own body. She continued, then she said I should be careful. That if I kept talking to you, she couldn't promise I'd be safe. My throat went dry. I asked, did she threaten you? Mia's voice cracked. Not directly. But she smiled when she said it. That same calm, creepy smile from that night at her house. Like she was proud of herself. I could hear the pain in her voice. The confusion. The disgust. She said, for a minute, I actually started to wonder if maybe she was right. That maybe I had imagined something between us. That maybe you had crossed a line that night. I stayed silent. She added, but then I remembered the look in your eyes when you left the cafe. You looked like someone whose whole world just got ripped away. She didn't have that look. She had the look of someone who won. That was the thing with my sister. She never argued to be right, she argued to win. And if she couldn't win honestly, she'd burn everything down and dance in the ashes. I told Mia about the journal. About the annotations. About Sarah and the fake interview. About the growing pattern of people she'd quietly undermined. She listened, didn't interrupt once. When I finished, she said, so, what now? You gonna let her keep doing this to people? That was the question I hadn't let myself ask. Because the truth was, I hadn't just been afraid of her. I was afraid of what it would take to stop her. But something cracked open in me that night. I said, no. I'm not. I made a plan. I wasn't going to fight her with gossip or revenge. That's her battlefield. She'd win there. But paper trails, receipts, cold, verifiable patterns. She couldn't twist those. So I spent the next 2 weeks building something real. I called Sarah again. Then Becca. Then the others. I told them what I was doing. Most were cautious, hesitant. But one by one, they agreed to write statements. Emails. Voice notes. They each described the same cycle. Love bombing. Emotional dependency. Undermining their confidence. A sharp, calculated break. A smear campaign. It was all there. I even dug up an old thread on a now-dead forum where a woman described a former roommate named Rachel, my sister's middle name, who mirrored her personality, for months, then slept with her boyfriend and accused her of being emotionally abusive. Same story. Different setting. By the end of the month, I had enough to connect the dots. Not for court. This wasn't about jail time. It was about sunlight. Exposing what she did so she couldn't keep doing it. But I needed a place to do it. A place where people wouldn't dismiss me as, just a bitter brother. So I wrote everything down. My story. Their stories. Dates. Texts. Screenshots. And then I posted it anonymously. Not on Reddit. Too easy to trace. I chose a survivors forum. Private, invite only, focused on emotional manipulation. I titled it, My Sister Builds People Just to Break Them, and I was her favorite blueprint. I didn't expect it to get traction. But it did. People started commenting. Sharing eerily similar stories. A few even messaged privately to say they knew her. That she'd done the same to them. That's when I knew, this wasn't just a pattern. This was her identity. She called me 2 days later. Didn't even say hello. Just launched into it. What the hell did you post? I said nothing. She said, you think hiding behind some anonymous forum makes you smart? You think painting me like some cartoon villain will fix your pathetic life? Still, I said nothing. That silence was power. The kind she couldn't stand. She screamed, you think people are going to side with you? You're a mess. You've always been a mess. You're just mad I stopped saving you. I finally spoke. You didn't save me. You studied me. Used me. Then broke me when I stopped worshipping you. Silence on her end. Then, click. No goodbye. No denial. Just the sound of the line going dead. She'd never been hung up on before. I could feel it. After that, the fallout was fast. She disappeared from social media for a while. Some of her loyal friends messaged me. Not to apologize, just to say, I'm starting to see it now. And Mia? She came back into my life. Slowly. Carefully. Not romantically. Not yet. Maybe never. But as someone who saw me again. Without the filter my sister built. I wish I could say I felt peace after that. That once the truth was out, I moved on clean. But the truth? Some nights, I still wait for another knock at the door. Because I know her. She doesn't let go. She waits. I didn't hear from her for weeks after the phone call. No texts. No emails. No knocks on the door in the middle of the night. But that silence wasn't peace, it was pressure. Building, stretching, waiting to snap. I knew she was planning something. She never left things unfinished. Especially not when she'd been humiliated. And when she finally reappeared, she didn't come for me directly. She went to our parents. I got the first clue when my mom called and left this shaky voicemail. "Honey, I don't know what's going on between you and your sister," but she came over crying. "Said you've been spreading things. Really awful things. We just want to understand what's happening. Please call us." I stood there with the phone pressed against my ear, jaw clenched so tight it hurt. She cried. That's what she did. My sister had this trick, she could cry without turning red. No blotchy skin, no puffy eyes. Just perfect, glistening tears rolling down a flawless face while her voice trembled at just the right frequency. She'd been doing it since she was 12. It always worked. I waited 2 days before calling back. I needed to be calm. Controlled. When I finally spoke to my parents, it was like walking into a courtroom where the verdict had already been decided. My mom started. "She's devastated, honey. She said you made up stories about her. Accused her of manipulating people. She said you posted private things on the internet." I didn't deny it. I said, "Because it's true. I can show you all of it." But my dad cut in. "Look, we don't want to get in the middle. You're both adults. But this public smear stuff, that's not how family handles things." I almost laughed. I said, "You're right. Family doesn't emotionally blackmail each other either. Or lie to friends, or sabotage relationships, or gaslight people into thinking they're insane. But you didn't have a problem with that when she did it." Silence. Then my mom said the line that broke something in me. "She's always been a little intense, but she means well." I swear to God, I felt something go cold in my chest. She means well. Like that made it okay. Like years of psychological warfare could be filed under quirky personality traits because she brought wine to Thanksgiving and remembered birthdays. I realized in that moment, they'd never see it. Not really. Because she made sure they never saw the bruises she left behind. Only the gift wrap. I ended the call by saying, "You can keep believing the story she told you. Or you can ask yourself why she's burned through every friendship, every roommate, every relationship she's ever had. I'm not the first. I'm just the one who stopped staying quiet." They didn't call back after that. Not for a while. I moved apartments a month later. Got a better job. Started seeing a real therapist, one that wasn't recommended by her or anyone she'd ever met. Mia and I kept talking. Some weeks more than others. No pressure. No promises. Just real, honest connection. And for the first time in years, I started to feel normal again. But the final reckoning came 6 months later. At our cousin's wedding. I almost didn't go. I debated it for weeks. But it was out of state, a clean venue, big crowd. I figured, worst case, I'd have an escape route. She walked in halfway through the reception. Hair pinned, heels sharp, dress calculated to turn heads. She scanned the room, saw me, and smiled. I didn't smile back. She made her way over during a lull between songs, holding a glass of champagne like it was part of her armor. Said, "So, you survived." I said, "Looks like we both did." She tilted her head. That same slow predator's move she used when she was trying to figure out your weak point. "You think you won, don't you?" I didn't answer. She sipped her drink. "You embarrassed me. Made people think I'm some kind of monster." I looked her dead in the eyes and said, "You did that all by yourself." She held my gaze for a few seconds, then smiled. "You always were too sensitive. That's your problem." I shook my head. "No. My problem was letting you narrate my life for me. That's done now." She looked at me like I'd spoken a different language. Then she leaned in, close enough for only me to hear, and said something I'll never forget. "They'll forget. Eventually. I always do." And then she walked away. Back into the crowd. Back into her next version of herself. The one she'd wear for 6 months until someone saw through it, and she burned that world down too. But not mine. Not anymore. I didn't follow her. Didn't warn anyone. I'd done my part. I danced that night. Ate cake. Laughed. I haven't spoken to her since. She's still out there. Posting curated joy. Starting new jobs. New friendships. New lives. And every now and then, someone from my past will text me something like, "Hey, your sister reached out. Seemed cool. But something felt off. Just thought I'd ask." And I always reply with the same thing: trust your gut. And lock your doors.